it was almost that we'd done something wrong. It was almost the feeling that we'd upset that many odds and were never fancied to go up that much. That it was almost a state of shock that we were in.
So hello and welcome to the latest episode in the UCFB LMA Insight series. I'm Neil Hawkins from UCFB, and today I'm delighted to be joined by the longest serving manager in the EFL, who recently took his side into the Championship for the very first time. With a nickname of Wild Thing, and in my humble opinion, the best haircut in football, I'm delighted to welcome Wycombe Wanderers boss Gareth Ainsworth. Gareth, how are you today?
Yeah, very good, thanks. And there's a few critics in the hair, but that's nice to have a compliment now and again.
There's been a few bad haircuts during lockdown, like shaved, so embrace the longness. Absolutely, it's great. But
yeah, definitely.
Only one place for us to start, and that is obviously your promotion to the Championship. Are you still celebrating, and has the size of that achievement quite sunk in yet?
Yeah, honestly, Neil, we weren't prepared for getting promoted right through the season. It's that much of a shock that even coming to the final whistle at Wembley, I remember the feeling and still remembering that there was got to be a speech somewhere that I've said the boys have done great to get to Wembley and we almost made it and what a great season we've had. And when that whistle went, it was almost that we'd done something wrong. It was almost the feeling that we'd upset that many odds and were never fancied to go up that much. That it was almost a state of shock that we were in. So it was an absolutely amazing feeling. I mean, nothing like it. And yeah, the celebrations went on not too long. To be fair, it was nice to be able to let the moment sink in. But the fixtures come out this Friday. And I think that then it's going to really hit home. I've heard people say Wycombe Wanderers Championship side. I've seen on the side of the TV where it pops up and you see Wycombe at the bottom of the Championship now. But I think until those fixtures come out and we see the enormity of the task ahead with the teams we're going to be playing, I think then it's going to be right. Let's get our teeth into what we've all deserved. And it's a fantastic day and a fantastic year for the boys. They've really delivered more than even I could imagine, and that's credit to them.
No, it's going to be an incredibly exciting season for you and all the boys. I'm sure it will be. But obviously, less than 30 years ago, Wycombe weren't even a Football League club. The rise has been quite incredible. How proud are you have to have played such a huge part in that success over the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I always credit everyone. We've all achieved at Wycombe, and I can't really keep going on about the culture and the way we are so together, and then sit here and take all the credit myself. It'd be very disrespectful to everyone who's helped me on the way, and that's fans, that's previous chairman, everyone who's backed me from the start, the players who, we've all been together. But as you say, 30 years ago, this club wasn't even in the Football League. Martin O'Neill brought them in the Football League, and I think that was probably the most iconic moment, and everyone's been in his shadow since then. And probably still am. What a fantastic manager, what a fantastic guy he is, and what he's gone on to as well proves what a fantastic manager he is. But to have finally got to the level where they've never been before after 133 years, I mean, it's been awesome, and what gets me is people just saying thank you to me, not excited about who we're going to play or isn't going to be great in the Championship. They've just actually said thank you for all you've done for Wycombe. And I'm an emotional guy. I live off emotions. There's no secrets there. People know that, and that does really get me sometimes. They're saying thank you to me, and I want to just say thank you to all them because their support. They don't realise that as managers we do get hurt now and again, and we do need support. You question everything you do, and that's you question it, but you make the decision because you're the manager. But to have that support really means a great deal, and so for the town, for the kids wearing Wycombe strips now in their schools and in the parks, and I had a letter from the council even saying thank you. It means so much to the town what this could bring to Wycombe. It's just brilliant. But as I say, I'm just the name who gets the to be at the front of it all. I've got a hell of a team and a hell of a group of players and a brilliant group of fans who've made this possible, and we wouldn't have been able to do it unless it was together.
I suppose second what you just said there, obviously football without fans, it's quite an empty place. I think everyone's discovered that the last few months, but
Yeah.
I suppose a tinge of sadness the fans can be with you at Wembley to celebrate, but hopefully not too long they'll be able to get behind the boys at Wycombe at home and enjoy the championship.
Yeah, and again, I actually think that no fans worked in our favour a little bit in the playoffs, especially. I thought that we made the most of that. But it did get me when I thought in the first ever championship game that this club will be in, the possibility of no fans being there is quite high, and that's it's not a nice thing to think. I'm sure they would love to be there. We'd be selling out Adams Park every week. We don't know where we're going to be going to. So the fans do deserve this, and I'm hoping that they'll get back in pretty soon. But as I say, I think it did work in our favour slightly, and can get into the techniques of that later in the interview. But it was, it did hit me that we've got there, but still fans may not be there. And at the start of July, when the final was, I was really thinking fans are going to be let back in September, October, like everyone was. But we seem to have, had a little spike here and there, and lockdowns here and there, which means we'll probably be without fans for a few more months yet. So sad for some Wycombe fans, but they'll be there in spirit, just like they were on Wembley.
Obviously, you mentioned the playoffs. They were very, very different this season, obviously. There was a point where maybe we didn't know there'd be any playoffs in the first place. So how did you kind of keep the players fresh and motivated during that period where they didn't know they'd be playing again this season? But then, obviously, once you're told you're in the playoffs, going again, knowing you'll be behind closed doors, how do you do that? How do you motivate them?
Yeah, the indecision was really difficult. So go right back to the start of lockdown, the end of March there, and it was really difficult because I was getting a lot of information from EFL, from people who thought they knew better, and the rumour mill, as it always is. So I've had to keep my players focused, and the way we did that was I made sure I spoke to them every single week, individually. Every single player I rang each week individually, just keeping them engaged with me and each other. Not necessarily football, but just we preach so much at Wycombe about football is important, but it's not the most important thing. There's so many more important things. So it was important then to back that up with these phone calls about their family, about their health, about what they've been up to. Knowing probably in deep down that I would have to have the football chats later. I was hoping the season was going to resume. It didn't. The next best thing was this points per game, and I had many meetings with all my staff, and we were working out all these points per games, weighted, unweighted, where we were at halfway point, all this stuff, and we were always in the mix. So I thought, if this does come to this, we're going to be in this mix, and these boys are going to be coming back playing, even if it is just 4 teams, which inevitably it ended up being. But it was important to just keep communicating with the boys, and so I was doing that weekly. I started splitting it up on the days because the first day it took me about 3 hours to get through everyone, and I didn't want to have to do that every week. So we staggered it over a few days, but it was just me, personal touch with all the boys. And then I spoke to a couple of managers as well, and I think Pep Guardiola says he's an idea stealer. Well, I definitely stole this idea. I spoke to a championship manager who remained nameless, but he said to me that what they're doing at his club was they were putting clips together. And just keeping them engaged on a football sense, not talking about them. And so I took this one step further. I got my my analyst, who's been fantastic, video analyst, and I spoke to him and I said, look, can you start putting clips together for every single player, like a 2-minute montage of all their best clips of the season? Because the players have their own WhatsApp group. I'm not in this WhatsApp group because I like to encourage them to talk about me, whatever they want to talk about. It just keeps them connected, and we're so team at Wycombe, it's important. So I got every day, and we did it in random order, so there's you don't know when your clips are coming, but every day for about, I think, 30 days, somebody had their clips on this WhatsApp group. The analyst posted them on this WhatsApp group, and what that did, it encouraged them comment on each other, to reconnect with football, also to see how important somebody's contribution is, and also that person to feel so good about his clips being on there and all his best stuff throughout the season. So he was winning all over the place. And we did it in random order. So it wasn't number order because you're expecting yours the next day. It was any random order. And that was important as well, the little detail of that. But it was so important to keep that chat on that WhatsApp group together, because if they'd have stopped talking for 10 weeks and we'd have got them back, and we'd have been behind the curve a little bit on the communication side of things. And so this idea that I got from a championship manager, I put into practice, and we made sure every day there was a clip going on. And I spoke to the captains when they got back. I said, how were the clips? And they said, brilliant. I said, every day you were waiting for your clips to come on. And everyone was commenting on how good someone was. And it must have made them feel $1 million, some of the players. And so even the ones who played 5 minutes in the season, or the ones who played every game, they all got clips. And I was really pleased we did that, because that paid back. Definitely, when we came back, it paid back later in the season.
It paid back massively, didn't it? Getting promoted, I suppose. But obviously, that's you and your staff adapting to a really quite unique in situation and environment. What did you learn about yourself in that time as a manager?
I learnt that I did learn that there was a big reset, and I was going about the values, that my values and what my values are. And I think it really hit home about the values that I have as a person, and all this respect, honesty. We have these team meetings at the start of the season that we go through. And these are my values, my core values that I want the boys to instill. And it's sort of living them at home was just as important as living them at work. We do them at work, but practice everywhere what your values are. That was what was really important to me, and I think I was giving that to the boys, and I was so proud of the boys, seeing some of the social media things they were doing. We started fundraising for the local One Can Trust, the Wycombe One Can Trust, and the boys were all on that. And I just thought to myself, these values that I've talked about, the communication between the boys, but these values about the community and people less fortunate. I mean, we had some real good responses that and about myself as well. I wanted to make sure I kept my values straight. I lived my values that I preach, and it's easy to do at work sometimes, because I've done that presentation at work. I haven't done it at home. I haven't done it to my family, my kids, but it was important to me to keep practicing that person I want to be. That person I thought was is good to is what I live it. I don't just work it, if that makes sense. I live what I am, and I think that's really important as a manager to instill these, but make them real, and that was super important for me to because everywhere reset, and there's a lot of values I think in the world that had reset, and people started realizing what really is important, their health and your family before the finances. People were surviving with no finances, but people weren't surviving with the virus, and so it was. It was a big reset, and I think taking the messages from that was important while I was at home.
I really agree. I think everyone, whatever walk of life they're in, it's been a complete change of mindset. It's how they approach work, life, family, all of it completely. I lied a little bit at the top of the interview. You're now the second longest serving manager in the EFL. Simon Weaver at Harrogate now takes over. But as he's not played a game in the EFL yet, you still count, I think, till the fixtures next month. But
did the mantle, yeah.
Did or does that kind of stat, does that please you, or do you wish other managers at other clubs were given similar time to be a success like yourself at Wycombe, sorry, not Wigan?
Easy mistake.
Living in the Northwest now, it's some of those things. But
no, I do believe that managers need time. Okay, and I'm going to say that I'm a football manager. It's what I am. So I'm not saying I need another 7 years. I've definitely done my stint, and I'm well embedded now in the culture of the place. But I do believe that managers need time, and I do believe that managers have to have a little bit of look at the start. They have to get these results. They have to be. It's a total different management style from the first year to the 7th year. A totally different management style, believe me. It's almost you what can I say? You're almost on the hop all the time. You're ad-libbing all the time. You're dealing with situations that you've never dealt with for the first time, and you've got to adapt very quickly. Where is in the 7th year, you have plans for every eventuality. So something comes up in my 7th year, I go, well, we've done this before. I've got this plan here. This is what we did last time. We can go again. But in that first year, you have to learn how to survive really quick. You have to adapt very, very quickly. You have to dodge bullets all over the place. And it is about survival, it really is. And I think that there's an art in doing that as well. I don't think anyone can do it. I think there's an art in that. You cannot go into it thinking you're going to be here in 4 years and that's what you'll put in place. You've got to survive straight away. And there's an art to doing that. And I think that, you're making decisions very quickly. I wasn't great, by the way, in the first, and maybe Wycombe Wanderers couldn't have afforded to sack me. Not that it was on millions of pounds, but they were in a real desperate situation. But I managed to survive. I managed to talk to the right people, be friends with the right people, get the right people's backing, your board above you, obviously, your core players. Not every player is going to get behind you because you're going to drop some, you're going to change things, but make sure the players you're going to play every week, the core, you're with them, involve them in your decisions, involve them in your thinking, just so you've got to get some support around you, you have to. And also give it your best. And if it doesn't work, at least you give it your best and you were you. And that's really important to me. But there is an art to that survival straight on, and you've got to get in there quick and work out the situation quick, work out the dynamics above you, work out the dynamics to the side of you. And make changes if you have to. Be bold and make those changes. But down the line, it is easier when you get a curveball. But it's still difficult because there's going to be quite a few curveballs coming to me this season, without a doubt. And it's my first season in the Championship. So again, but I think giving managers a little bit of time to let them put their own spin on things. I mean, the transfer window only comes around once every 6 months, and how can you not give a manager a transfer window? How can you not give him the chance to bring his own players in? I think that perhaps there could be some contractual thing where a manager gets a window, 1 or 2 windows at least, when you employ someone. I think that might be something to look at, because they've all got different ideas about who we play, and people will still play different players to me now. But longevity for me is key. And it's a different style entirely from when you first take over to when you're down the line.
And this kind of repeats that slightly. You were nearly 6 years at Wycombe before you had your first promotion. And feel free to blow your own trumpet here. But are you proof that patience in football management is highly beneficial and can only reward the football club in the long run?
Yeah, but I also say that there was, if you look at if you could draw a line on a graph, which you probably could, of where we started when I took over to where we were after that 6 years. I think that the line would be pretty, it would be not linear. Obviously, there's all sorts of peaks and troughs, but it would be on an upward curve, definitely. And I think that patience again to see the progress, but then make people aware of the progress as well. And I think it's important that you set out your ideas to the board, your ideas to people, and yeah, we've had small budgets, but don't be afraid saying that to the board and saying that was a successful season. That's been success, because that will give you time. That will buy you time sometimes. But I'm glad to say that my line is a definitely upward curve, and but still, I had to make people aware of that all the time, because you have to protect yourself in this as well. But the last 3 years, I mean, have just been fantastic beyond our wildest dreams. But we were on a steady curve upwards, and people could see the changes around the club. I'm very proud. But again, you'll never get me taking the credit. It's a team effort.
So obviously, talking about team efforts, you have one player in particular, thinking of Adebayo Akinfenwa. He's obviously a very vocal, very colourful man, with the way his personality. Saw him after the final the other week. Fantastic interview talking about Jurgen Klopp as well. But looking at obviously your man management style, how do you manage different personalities in that dressing room setup?
Well, you've answered the question there. They're all different personalities, so you cannot manage every person the same. It's impossible. And if anyone thinks that you can, then you're getting it wrong, because they've all had different backgrounds, they've all had different upbringings, they've all had different experiences in their life. I consider myself quite lucky. I've been through quite a lot in life, right down to a divorce, and I have a child who lives away from me, and all these little things that are negatives to a lot of people. But I take the positives out of that and go, I can help people through this because I've been through it and I've experienced it. And I think that rather than going, that wasn't fair, that take the positives from it and say, right, I will use all the positives from my life. And I've rejection when I was playing, some tough times, I was unfortunate to be involved in a tackle that ended a boy's career at Sheffield United, and no malice, nothing, but I've had to live with that. And again, living with all these things, using every bit of experience I got from all my knockbacks, my tough times, and I think that use every bit of skill, because all my players have been through relationship problems, mental problems, rejection problems, confidence problems. So have I. And I think that I'd be stupid to say to them, I've never been through that, and this is what you should do. I think one of my biggest skills is empathy, and knowing what they're feeling, knowing how I felt and what made me better, how I got over it. And I think that it's one of my biggest skills is talking to people. I will never, ever shy away from a conversation. If it's dropping someone, if it's telling someone off for doing something stupid, if it's praising someone, I will never shy away from a conversation. I think it's really important that we communicate. The majority of problems I've ever had is because just of a miscommunication or a lack of communication. So communication for me is so key. And then the empathy of working out that individual, working out who he is. And someone like Akinfenwa, if I tried to come down on Akinfenwa and control him, I'm on a losing battle. I know the kind of person he is. When he walks in a room, everybody knows about it. Everybody. He'll overpower me at times, but I can accept that because I know what he brings to the team. I'll sort of enhance that for him. I know how important he is, but I'll also involve him in a lot of conversations about the team, about what's going on in my life sometimes, asking him about his life. So we have this bond that is really solid because he's one of my key men in the dressing room. And I think you've got to be able to manage everybody differently. Young people with talking and talking about football isn't your best way of finding out about people. It's probably talking about the non-football stuff is the best way to get to know your players and get to know about them and their families and their wife's name and their kids and I think that's real key. It's my way anyway, and I think the human touch and the man management thing is something that Wycombe is renowned for, and I'm very proud of it.
You may have actually answered my next question just there, but when you were a player, was becoming a manager always what you wanted to happen when you're playing stop? And if so, are you the kind of manager you thought you'd be?
No is the answer. I was studying physiotherapy, so I had a nasty injury. I was lucky enough to get a move to the Premier League and played big money at Wimbledon for me, and I ended up getting a real serious injury, a pelvis injury that people were misdiagnosing back in those days, and now it's quite a common injury, a pelvic overload. But I went down the physio route of I was in the physio room a heck of a lot, and I think we that sort of I looked at it and thought, I wouldn't mind having a bit of this one. I'd love to stay in football. I was about 30 years old, so I started studying the physiotherapy route and did the diploma. Ended up going to QPR from Wimbledon, and right up to where a guy called Luigi Di Canio came in at QPR. I was thinking I'll get on the medical side, the sports science, the fitness side. I was always one of the fittest players. I was always up for the challenge. I was always in the gym. I knew about the human body, which again, all these little bits, studying my physio, it's another little string to my bow as a manager as well, which has really helped. So that cannot be dismissed. But when Luigi Di Canio took over at QPR, he couldn't speak English, and he was Italian, and I'm lucky enough to speak Spanish, not fluently, but enough to understand a bit of what he was saying, and I'd translate to the boys what he was trying to get across, and he was the one who said to me at the end of the season, he actually left at the end of the season, but he said, take your coaching badges. He said, the lads respect you, respond to you, and you say your stuff authoritatively and as a leader. And that was the first time I ever thought, right, I'm going to do what he says. If he said that, and he's a good Italian manager, I thought, I'll have a go at this. And so I started doing my coaching badges. I ended up taking 10 games at QPR as caretaker manager. No way was I ready in any shape or form. And I think I was proud to realise I wasn't ready, and made Flavio Briatore aware that I wouldn't be ready to take that job. But every manager that walked in after Luigi, so there's John Gregory, Ian Dowie, Paulo Sousa, who's fantastic, Gary Waddock, and then thinking about my previous managers as well, of what I've taken from them and what they did. I made sure I was looking, I was aware of what was going on, and started slowly transitioning into this guy looking at the football side of things. And believe me, as a player, and you ask the boys I played with, I wasn't the tactician. No way. I was a winger. Give me the ball. I'll take someone on and get a crossing. They used to come in at half time and say, "Oh, the number 4 is getting in this pocket," and I wouldn't even be seeing this. So I knew I had to study hard on the tactics side. And again, only last season I said to my assistant Richard Dobson, who's a fantastic coach, 20 years down the line coach, I said, I'm seeing so much more in training now. I see so much more. It's amazing how we see it. And just hours on the grass and watching games and watching first teams that finally seeing more pictures. Nowhere near the finished article, got plenty to learn, but really feel like I'm making good strides now. But the answer was, never thought I would be a manager. And the type of manager I am, probably. I've always been a people person. I've always been a kinesthetic, touchy-feely, everyone feeling good together person. So the type of manager I am, I think, the way I played, I try and get the lads to be doing this on the pitch. I like being unique. I've always been against the grain sort of thing. I was into my rock music whenever all my other mates were into the dance scene and that in the 90s, and I was always the one stood out with the weird tasting music. But I think that set me up to be that little bit different. And the boys respond to that. They love it. And I'd like to say that I do see 11 Gareth Ainsworth attitudes on that pitch on a Saturday, and I'm very, very proud of that. Really proud. They don't give up. They don't say die. They won't argue. They'll get on. They're all together. And so the type of manager, I could see why it comes across like that. But was I ever thinking of being one? No, not till I was about 30. But I'm so glad I did now, because it's been a big part of my life.
So you mentioned there obviously your injury at Wimbledon, and that really, I suppose, stopped you having a real good go at a Premier League career.
Yeah.
And my question was going to be, did that setback kind of spur you on for the rest of your career? And I suppose inadvertently it has, hasn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. I was close to, Kevin Keegan was talking to me about an England call-up and things like that when I moved to the Premier League. So it was, that was a real whack. Honestly, I was out for about a year and a half with this injury that I kept going back and forth with operations. And do you know what? I really questioned whether my career was over. I did. And again, probably a tool that I use now, and I have done with, Darius Charles came and saw me 2 years ago thinking his career was over. We got him through, and he was a star player last year for us. So all these little tools that I picked up throughout my career. But I think that the time I missed at Wimbledon, I probably got back on the end of my career. I played till I was 41, and I was super fit even at that age. And I went to QPR and sort of had a second wind, a second coming at QPR. So I do think I got that time back. It was a hell of a time to go through. Believe me, it was not nice, and I was feeling very guilty that I was earning good money at Wimbledon and not contributing at all. They got relegated from the Premier League. I didn't play a part, but that's who I am. I wouldn't ever be. I was thinking, are they going to cancel my contract? What's going to happen? And but I do think it came back on the other side, and I'm pleased that I got back on track, especially at QPR, which I'm probably most known for now, and the latter years at Wycombe as well. So, tough times, but again, all tools that I've used in management.
As a player, were there any managers you played under or played against that you admired and could say maybe they've influenced your career as a manager so far?
I try and be myself as much as possible, but little things that I remember Ian Holloway when I signed for QPR. There was me, Kevin Gallen, Mark Bircham, and Martin Rowlands, and we sort of took over the dressing room. We were so vocal. I was in my 30s now. Ian Holloway, he let that energy. Things could have gone another way, or if we were bad characters, we could have tried to influence the other way. But I think Ian let the energy go and let it flow sometimes. And we had nights out where probably on days we shouldn't have had nights out, but he knew that the night out and all the team together that we led was more important than maybe the training session the next day. That spirit that we had, and so I think that Ian showed me that it wasn't all about the football. So there was so much more in the detail about the togetherness, the culture of places. But I mean, I go back to John Beck, who signed for at Cambridge United when I was 18, 19 years old. He knew my strengths and made me believe my strengths were good enough to do anything. He was so good at convincing people they were superpowers. He was great at that. Gary Waddock, even from when I took over, John Gregory at QPR, fitness. John Gregory got us super fit and super running and pressing. And then Gary Waddock, as I say, I took over at Wycombe, and the last thing Gary said to me was, "Your turn now, Gareth." On the day he'd been relieved of his duties, he said to me, "Your turn now, Gareth. Go and have a go." So that almost says to me, what a man, because he could have turned around and been bitter and said, I hope the next person fails. He actually genuinely said, go and do it. Go on, you were born to do this, Gareth. Go and do it. And that almost gave me sanction to go, right, thank you. I don't need to worry about what Gary was thinking. I was going to go in there and do it. And all these things now, so looking back, there's plenty of people who influenced, and everyone you meet is always influencing you, always shaping you into this person, but don't try and be somebody else. Just take snippets and mold it in your own image. And yeah, it's been a really interesting journey with thinking about it and looking back at it. But I'm hoping that there's plenty of inspiration coming from Wycombe Wanderers for other people at the moment as well.
Are there any managers across the four English leagues at the minute that, as a player, I'd love to have played for?
Yeah, I hear people talk about Pep Guardiola and how he sees football differently, and how people, when they play for him, they see a different way to play football. I'd love to see that. I really would love to see, because he has such a unique style, and how he always professes that he has the big budgets and can afford the best players. But again, very humble of him. I think that's a real good trait of his. I'd love to play for him, and I was an attacker, so it would have been fantastic. I'm sure. I'm not sure I was the passing type though, so I'm not sure how many games I get under Pep. But just to watch him coach, or to see what he does sometimes, see how he thinks about the game. He's a fantastic manager. But then you go back into the 90s, Alex Ferguson, as well. What a team he had, and how he put that team together under some serious pressure in the early 90s to dominate the 90s football as well. So some real interesting, I'd love to have played for people like that and see how they did it and see how far they could have taken my game. But unfortunately, them days have gone.
It's always interesting to hear when people like yourself maybe say, Pep comes up quite a lot. Obviously, as a football fan, or you read through the media, we always hear and talk about Pep Guardiola, Barcelona, Munich, now at City. So to hear other league managers say similar things obviously shows what esteem he's held in as a manager, certainly.
Yeah. I think it's the person as well. I think he is. I think it's not just the football. I think it's the person he is as well. You just want to listen to him and watch his actions and learn more about him. I think he's an incredible guy.
So, obviously, UCFB, we offer university degrees in football and sport for various parts of that industry. How important, or how much importance do you place on education for those that maybe want to work in football or sport, whatever capacity that might be?
Yeah, I think education, knowing the game, knowing the sports is huge. I think there's certain things you can only get from experience and being around it, but there's prepared for that. So I think the education must prepare you for coming into places like a football environment and give you the expectation of what it's going to be about and what you're expected to do. It depends. It's dependent on which job as well, which job you're going to go into. But I mean, there's all sorts of rules now, and I'm glad that the football is, it's got all these rules and regulations in that we must follow, and we must, and all these are being taught at the universities. There's so many agents in there now. There's the media people, the commercial, the marketing, all that sort of stuff now. It's huge in football, absolutely huge. And I think that having a good background and having a good base is crucial. I think we look at people and look at the background, the base, and see how they did, as well as the personalities of these people, which you often now get in applications and looking at people and doing your research on whether they've been a leader in this or whether they've done these awards or something like that. It does come into it now because football's such a massive industry that we need the best people in there. And I'm glad to say I've met quite a few of the students, and they've always been cracking after the games, the media students especially. So it's always been a pleasure having them down. And you never know, there may be one or two who venture into this and start working with us. But it's a huge moments to be able to talk to people who are in the game, talk to people who've been around the game quite a while. And I'm not saying me, I'm saying there's much more experience than me, but trying to get as much, as I said, all the things I went through in my life, my experiences. I think it's really important you bring all those to the table and tell the people about you as a person, as well as all the qualifications you've got.
That's great, Gareth. And I've got just one more question for you, which I ask everybody I interview. If you could pass on one bit of key advice to any of our students about succeeding in sport, whatever they want to work, wherever they want to work, what would it be?
It honestly would be, you got to be humble. You've got to be humble. Never come in thinking that I am. That will come for you. But be yourself. Honestly, be yourself, because people put you in jobs because of who you are, not trying to mold you into somebody else. They'll say that guy's got the job because he's that guy. And I think that's really important, that you be yourself. You put your own twist on things, because the best people, I think, in historically, in no matter what industry it is, they've put their spin on something, them as a person. And as I keep talking, all these experiences have molded you to who you are now. Be that person. And if it's good enough, it'll work without a doubt. And always, at the end of the day, one thing I can definitely do is look in the mirror and say, and I never screwed anyone over. I was always honest. I was humble, and I can look in the mirror and sleep at night. And that's quite an important thing, But just be you. And if you're that kind of person, you'll go far.
Gareth, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
No worries, and good luck to everyone.